Um, so, Florian, I think we are live now for everyone to stay at his handies, mobiles, laptops, whatever out there. And I say hello and good evening from Berlin in my case, and welcome you to our Saloon Action for Poland Now. Why we want action for Poland now? Because we have a few years visiting, not visiting, perhaps a few of us visitors, of course, looking at Poland and seeing that there is a situation for LGBT people is going worse and worse and worse. It started long ago, of course, with typical things happening in a few societies in Europe, that there's a religious influence from the Catholic Church, together with conservative to right-wing parties at the parliaments, bringing gender questions and questions of sexual orientation on the boards to oppose them. The rights of LGBT, the rights of women, of course, and yeah, that's what's happening in Poland now for years, and we get information of that 2 years in higher taxing rate after they are starting to establish so-called LGBT-free zones. At the moment, more than a third of the nation of Poland. So there are, yeah, what's this called? There are really big problems for the gays and the lesbians and transsexuals living there, because they are wiped out of the public life. They are hunted by bad people, like I don't want to call the police bad people, but of course we have tonight here people who are caught by the police and being treated hard. And for young people, of course, it's a bad situation when they're coming out. They can't talk to anyone because it's if you talk about it in an LGBT-free zone, then you have to live with consequences. And we want to talk about that in the first time, in the first half of this session here tonight. And after that, we want to look what can we do in Europe, what wishes the Polish community from us, and yeah, that's what why I'm here. And we start now with a short introduction of the panel we have here, and I think we start that anyone says in a few words, in a few sentences, why he's here, and perhaps getting deeper into as I did it now in a few words. And I want to start with Monika Tichy. She's president from Lambda Stettin, and give us a few words.
Hello, my name is Monika Tichy. As you said, I'm from Lambda in Stettin, which is only 2 hours ride from Berlin, and German border is 10 kilometers away. We are right now, our society, our community here, we are concentrated on survival in this circumstances of war, which was started in the spring last year. And we didn't start this fire, it was government and church. And it's getting heavier and heavier. Do you want me to make a summary of what was happening?
Sorry, my micro. Monika, thank you. At this point, no, deeper we want to go in the second round. I first want to introduce you all with one or two sentences why you are here and what you're doing. Yeah. Okay. So thank you, Monika, and I will go to Kajetan. I hope I did it right.
Yes. Hi, I'm Kajetan Wukomski. I'm a musician and DJ. I play under the nickname Automat. I also try and keep active in activism, in LGBTQ activism in Warsaw, where I live right now. And also with my two collectives, Oramix and Ciężki Brokat, we do some charity work, charity events and charity releases for the LGBTQ crowd.
Okay, and last guy from Polish is Lukasz, and please introduce you.
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Lukasz. I am a non-binary activist. I live in Poznań, Poland. I work here for Grupa Stonewall in Poznań. I live here every day, but I also work for Lambda Szczecin online. And if they need me, I travel there. I support them because Monica is my chosen family. Personally, I am a queer, feminist, and atheist.
Thank you, Lukasz. And then we have two other people here in the panel, and one of them is Stana Iliev from Berlin here, and she is from All Out. I think a lot of guys and women here in Germany knows All Out because they're very active here. And give us a short introduction, please, Stana.
First, thank you so much for inviting us. I'm Stana Iliev. Hi everyone. I'm a campaigns manager for All Out. We are a global organization for LGBT+ rights. And we are here to support activists and grassroots organizations whenever there is an emergency, whenever there's an opportunity to fight for LGBT rights. And yes, we've been quite focused on Poland lately, and we've run a number of campaigns together with the Atlas of Hate, Kampagnen against homophobia. We've been in contact with activists and trying to support, and that's all for now.
Thank you, Stana. And last but not least, we have a guest from London here with a name, with an organization which name is well known worldwide. Dan Glass from ACT UP.
Eating lunch right now.
Thank you, Christian. Yeah, my name's Dan. I'm an activist with AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, which is an HIV activist grassroots movement, as well as the Gay Liberation Front, and it's the 50th anniversary of the Gay Liberation Front this year, who in the UK started Pride 50 years ago. Also got Polish heritage. So this is another reason why it's so important to me, but more of that later. Thank you so much for having us.
And because Florian and me did so much together, I forget him because normally he's the unseen, the invisible guy in this round. So of course, Florian is here today, official from Queermeters e.V. We will do later a thing between All Out and Queermeters e.V. It's a little surprise for the viewers. And of course, Florian is very active at the Berlin Pride organization, and more to that from him.
Okay, so hello everybody. If I look a bit apart, that's why I'm also running the tech in the back. So, but I'm fully here and listening, especially because I'm very thankful that everybody is here. It was very dear to my heart that we are getting together, because there's been a lot of action in Poland that came from Berlin activists, from Polish activists, from people from London, and from international groups like All Out. But I think we are on the point where we really need to gather all our activities, and where we need to sit together and speak together. What can we do with the budgets we have, with the attention we have, and with the capacity for live action in times of a virus being out there, making it pretty hard to go on the streets in big groups, but also making it hard to travel. Dan and me are supposed to go to Poland to be there on the ground in about 10 days, which we are not sure if we can just do it because of the situation. You know, And so there's a lot holding us back right now, and this is why we need to use these new tools, like being online together, and get attention, inspire people to act up, and inspire people to donate to the prides and organizations in Poland. Yeah, and thank you, Christian, for helping us gathering a bigger audience and managing all this little group throughout the next talk.
Yeah, I hope I will be beyond my language barrier, but I think we will try, and when I make signs. Okay, thank you all for introducing yourself, and so we can now go into deeper what you all told here, and first, perhaps for people are visiting for people looking here and follow us who are not that familiar with the situation. Perhaps one of you can tell, perhaps Florian, what actually is the situation in Poland for LGBT people, because I try to explain LGBT-free zone. What means that? What means it if now we have today the news that there is a try in the parliament for forbidden pride organizations for and marches. It's a brand new coming to the news today. What that means, Florian?
Okay, I would like to give one to Monica because she can literally answer this question the best. Is that okay for you, Monica?
Yeah, so as short as I can, since 2015 we have a very conservative government, a right-wing populist called Law and Justice, PiS Party, and since the very beginning of their rule, LGBT people feel under the pressure of their anti-LGBT propaganda, which at first was like happening from time to time. And in the beginning of the previous year, after the mayor of Warsaw signed LGBT Charter, which was the declaration of support of LGBT people by municipality of Warsaw, Law and Justice started, of course, along with everybody they are cooperating with, which is first of all Catholic Church, using the public media and the whole range of government institutions, from schools to offices. The hate campaign against LGBT people, it was mostly connected with for election, European Parliament first, then local parliament, Poland's parliament, then Polish presidential campaign, and this hate campaign was fueling all these campaigns and gathering their followers around the idea of the threat from LGBT people. As they say, we are perverts, we are sodomites, we are the threat to family, to Christianity, to tradition, we are destroying families, we are teaching children what we call sex education is our program to teach children masturbation in the kindergarten from the age of 4. And such, which has an effect, of course, on many layers of life. The hatred against LGBT people is growing and growing, and we record more and more cases of violence against queer people, all kinds of violence, from verbal in the streets, in the public places, through school work, school bullying, and the families which radicalized also. But this was connected also with pride. They are telling that we are, running naked around the streets, which is nothing wrong anyway. But our reaction, the community, queer community in Poland, in the whole Poland, after some years of the pressure of oppression, of harassment from government and church, were making more and more prides. We had prides only in 6 biggest cities of Poland, and in 2018 it grew to more than twice, and also twice in 2019. But this year is different. We do not organize prides. We had only 3, which were made like on the verge of law and safety regulations. Being in lockdown was also hard. One more thing, very important, was along with this hate campaign, there became an idea of LGBT-free zones, which were the reaction to this Warsaw LGBT Charter. The municipalities, counties, or regional governments were making the declaration that their community is free of LGBT, and they called it LGBT ideology, which is thing that does not exist, but it was made formally to avoid the telling that we exclude any citizen. But this regulation, this declaration, claims the complete ban of telling about LGBT rights in any project connected to this municipality or county or region, which is connected with the office. And also they try to hide this behind the name of family rights declaration, but it means, and it's openly said, that LGBT people are not welcome there. And it even goes to the such extent that any NGO which does not oppose to the idea of marriage equality cannot get any public funds from this municipality or county, even if they're if what they are doing is on completely different field. So that's the summary of the situation on a very basic level.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you. I think that's a good overview for giving a feeling what's from the officials making what the officials make pressure on the whole, and you described how it can affect on different kinds of social life, because it's not only politics, it's going into every family, I think. And perhaps Lukáš and Kajetan, do you want to go on further? Want to tell us personal things to go any deeper in this?
I would actually try saying at first that the LGBTQ community has never been a very loved community in Poland. But at some point, we've been going in the right direction. Like the direction was towards more equality, more tolerance. So like the problems of our community were getting less and less. And for a couple of years now, since Law and Justice are in the parliament and they're a ruling party, our rights have been taken back to what they used to be, and the view of the public has changed a lot, and people are starting. Basically, what happened, a finger was pointed at us as the perpetrators of everything that's bad and the people's lives in Poland. We've been made scapegoats for a countless amount of bad things that have been happening. So they've been trying to erase our identity from the public space. They've been trying to erase us in education. They've been trying to erase us, to erase our pride parades. They've been trying to erase the discussion about basic human rights, which we still don't have in Poland. We can't marry, we can't adopt, we can't visit our partners in a hospital or make decisions about their burial. It's like, you know, completely basic things concerning the closest person in your life. Yeah, we've started feeling like citizens of like the third category. So people are getting scared, and rightfully so, because the violence, as Monica said, is really coming up in a really huge wave.
Thank you, Kajetan. Lukas, would you tell us your opinion, what you have to say there?
I mean, Monica and Kajetan said a lot about what's going on, and I just want to add that as a queer community here in Poland, we are in a point of a fight, of a war, for our basic human rights and our lives, where we realized that there is no coming back. It's a one-ticket journey to equality in Poland, and we can't take any step back now. And so our main purpose, destination, what we can do now only is to survive this. And so this is all we can do in Poland, I guess.
Yeah, that's that's a totally deep, a terrible thing. If you hear something like that from a relative free country like Germany, you can't imagine, I think, if you never been in such situation. Perhaps you can describe us a little bit if you are in a conservative family and can't talk to your parents, but you're not going published from the police, you're not going punished from the state for that. And so perhaps our viewers can try to feel what's happening here. Florian, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, thank you, Christian. And also just to add about a little bit the history of what happened vice versa in Berlin, whilst the situation in Poland sharpened more and more. I think we lost Dan, but he might come back. So when about like the beginning of last year, no, it was Corona is really mixing up my memories and times and years. I just realized it was the beginning of this year when we did the first demonstration in front of the Polish Institute, right? It was this year, it was not last year, sorry. Because we just couldn't believe when we kept on hearing the news that like just about like 100 kilometers in air distance to Berlin, they are implementing LGBT-free zones. They're like implementing our existence. And I'm speaking to Monica, Lukas, and Kajetan as my brothers and sisters here. Our existence is being denied. It is just not there. So which like all the other, the red tail that comes with it, all the crimes that are connected to it, all the medical issues, all the psychological issues, all the educational stuff, which is all crossed out. And we here in Berlin just couldn't just watch it. So we did whatever we could. So we did it the good old style. We went into the institutions of the country and tried to raise awareness. And thanks God, there are people like Stana and Dan in other places who also did the same thing. And especially Stana, maybe you can speak a little bit about the international actions which were accomplished so far, and the running campaigns and the work of All Out.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was in March. We were in front of the Polish Cultural Institute, and yeah, that was just shortly before COVID actually happened. But I mean, the pushback that we've been witnessing in Poland and actually all around Eastern Europe, the Balkans as well, has been starting before that. And we saw these policies slowly developing in 2019. And I feel like because there was no answer from the international community, or very little answer, especially also from the European Commission and the European Union, that just accelerated it, and it showed them that they can go further and further and further. And when they say traditional values, I mean, we are witnessing now, we know what it means. It means patriarchy, it means oppression of everything that is not in their, you know, pattern. So there's different levels of what has been done. Of course, for All Out, we have started working immediately with the campaign against homophobia in Poland, as well as with the Atlas of Hate. On the first level, we addressed the European Commission. We started a 6-language campaign, a petition targeting Ursula von der Leyen and the Commissioner for Equality, Helena Dalli. And we gathered just shy of 350,000 signatures, urging them to action. We were able to hand over that signature in a personal meeting with Helena Dalli just last month, having a conversation with her and informing her about our experience with activists. Someone from Kampagnen of Homophobia was also with us that day, and we are now waiting for the upcoming strategy for LGBT plus people in the European Union, which will be very interesting. And we are hoping that the words that have been spoken by Ursula von der Leyen recently towards the situation will have concrete actions that follow. For us, it is important to really activate people, to give power to the people and make this local issue very global and very international. So we are trying to just, wherever diplomacy kind of fails, to urge institutions and politicians into action by just giving people the voice that they usually probably that they don't have through petitions like this. On the second level, we started a campaign together with Pulse of Europe, which is an organization that founded itself as an answer to the right-wing backlash in Europe, which the message was that LGBT is, of course, a community that belongs to the European community, the European Union. And we started addressing partner cities of Polish towns that have declared themselves LGBT-free zones. We have worked on concrete recommendations on how partner cities can use their educational and cultural portfolio to really support people and use their diplomatic relations, their working relations to address the issue. There was a lot of effort of partner cities asking their counterparts on these policies, addressing that it is not in line with the European conventions, it's not in line with the basic values of the European Union of human rights and equality. And if there was a negative answer, some of them froze relationships, which is one way of diplomacy. In our opinion, we thought that we do not want to cut off this essential lifeline to tools and means for activists and people on the ground to continue their work, because of course NGOs, activists cannot receive funding and support from within the country, but money from the European Union, international relations, cooperations with organizations, and such important diplomatic relations as partner cities can be a very, very vital tool. So we were working on that, and we collected 71,000 signatures. We will speak to this one a little bit later. We have a lot of resources there, a toolkit on how to work together, developed by Polish activists as well. And of course, we're supporting smaller initiatives, petitions that are, for example, protesting that the Euro Games are supposed to take place in Malopolska. We're supporting campaigns that address on a national level, because of course the European Union is one thing, but national diplomacy is very important in this area. So we have a petition started in the UK, in Germany, and in Bulgaria right now, and we're working on more, addressing their ministries of interior to urge them to use their diplomatic relations, but also the parliamentary friendship groups that exist in every parliament, where every party has a representative, and they usually have good working relationships with Poland, with another country, to use that to engage in conversations around that. And just to really concretely just start diplomacy, start and support educational and cultural programs, and support activists wherever they are, support the Polish diaspora community, especially in Germany. Speaking of Djibouti, for example, who we've been working with quite actively, the LSVD, who has started the campaign addressing the Ministry of Interior and the parliamentary friendship groups. Of course, the Christopher Street Day in Berlin, that has been very active. Yeah, I will stop there because I know that we could go on forever. There have been many small and big initiatives, and yeah, this is what we're doing.
I thank you very much, Dana, and that is a lot of. I will repeat 2 points of that. The one thing is the financial situations from groups in Poland who are suffering for money from outside because it's difficult to get. They don't get anything from the state, of course not, and like organizations here in Germany, for example, or in other lands of the European country. There was at the Berlin Pride was the launch of a website. You can give money to different Polish LGBT organizations. We'll feature that in the later to bring it to our viewers. And the second one is called the diaspora. That's not, and that's a hard. It's what a word. If you talk about there are a lot of LGBT people leaving Poland, coming to Berlin, for example, and that's why I want to get now back to Florian, because some of them are really searching for shelter, and something like that is there.
Thank you, Christian. Besides the part that there is a lot of people who are actually also contacting Berlin Pride, and also me personally, because I've been organizing a couple of the demonstrations in front of the embassies and the institute, who are searching for help to find a network which can help them finding shelter in Berlin. What happened besides this is that we have set up like a kind of underground network for activists who get in danger. So basically, there is a space which I won't name right now. Thank you to the space though, at the German-Polish border, which has the capacity to take on activists who are getting in an actual danger. Like they're there 24/7. So if something happens, we do have this small security network which can help people to get first out of the danger of the situation, and then secondly, we have a pretty wide network here in Berlin, which goes from the Office of Foreign Affairs, basically to all the other Pride organizations, and to to the local LGBTIQ plus organizations here in Berlin, helping people to either find support here if they really have to get out of Poland. Before I pass on to Dan, because like you have started also some beautiful international initiatives, I would love to give it back to Monica, because I think there is one point really missing, because what it does to the younger population of Poland, when there is no elders they can rely on, when there is no people they can find advice or where they can just lean on to. And Lambda 13 made a video for Berlin Pride, which, and I should say a trigger warning here, is mentioning a lot of suicides which happen in a terribly young age of people. Monica, can you say a couple of words to this really deep but important topic?
Oh yeah, this violence we experience, including the symbolic violence and including symbolic violence and all this hate propaganda which is pouring out from TV, from state TV, from churches and so on, impacts, has an effect not only in aggression we meet in the streets and during our prides, which are also very violently attacked in the cities on the south and east, but it also has impact on how queer people feel, especially young people, because this is very vulnerable time of life when they discover their identity, their orientation, and they find out that a lot of people, influential people, including very often their own parents, call what they are a disease or an ideology. So not humans or monsters or rapers or perverts or sodomites. And having such a mixture of information from around, they are very lost in feeling about feeling about what they discover in themselves. So a lot of them believe that they are something wrong, or even if they believe that they are not something wrong, they are very heavily impacted by all this hatred and rejection, especially from parents, because in Poland, only one father in 8 accepts LGBT child and only one mother in 4. So it means most of kids are rejected in their own homes. And they also have to live in closet as long as they can. And if they come out or are outed in a way, they experience terrible things like emotional violence, like economical violence, physical violence in their own homes, and sometimes are disowned, are thrown out from houses, or opposite, imprisoned in houses. They cannot leave them except from school, cut off from internet, from phones, from money. It is especially very hard with transgendered people, because ridiculous regulations in Poland demand them to sue their own parents, that they misgendered them at birth, and go with them to court. So, and those parents can, if they oppose the idea of transition of their child, and it is very common, they can even block the process of officially changing gender. So young people being aware of that, they sometimes are in they have a dilemma to if they are, for example, very badly treated at home, to move out and sue the parents for allowance to finish the high school, or not go to the school anymore, but go to job to provide for themselves. But then they know that there will be the problem during this formal transition process. So it's even hard to believe, because everybody we say about this transition process in Poland say, oh my God, is it really like that? Yes, it is. It's one of the biggest problems here, and one of our most urgent demands, changing the law about that. So we have a lot of suicide attempts along LGBT people, especially transgendered people. So we know that from people who, after the attempt but survived, seek the help in our NGOs, or their parents who lost a child and need consolation, or it happens very often. Right now we had 2 cases last week in Stettin, which do not go to press, but we know about this.
Monica, thank you so much for a deep insight of all the things which show again and again how important it is that we are bringing all these things and all the possible actions we can do into an international movement. And on this point, I would like to pass over to Dan from London, who is currently also based in Berlin, I think. But maybe, Dan, you can tell us a bit about your project, Make Poland Gay Again. What is behind that?
Yeah, thank you so much. Do tell me to shut up, because I could talk a lot. So anytime, just tell me to shut up. Thanks so much for organising this, by the way. The conversation is so important and powerful. And Make Poland Queer Again, not gay again, I've got to change the Facebook name, is an international solidarity initiative. And the first and foremost, it's to show active solidarity and love with all of you on the front line, to share ideas for creative actions, which we want to share some now, but really, first and foremost, it's for you on the ground in Poland to say, that's a good idea, that's a shit idea, because it has to be led by you, the ideas, and we'll show all the solidarity that we can, as well as press, as well as fundraising. It's also about actions. Just off the top of my head, so I am from London, but I'm in Berlin now, and I'm also, my heritage is German and Polish, and I'd like to talk about that, which is why it informs me about the international solidarity actions. But just one thing before it falls out of my head is in Berlin here, a very practical action that's going to be launched hopefully tomorrow is part of the amazing new group, the Berlin Queer Solidarity Crew. And we're going to put a crowdfunder online tomorrow to try and raise €2,000 for the Queer Youth Centre that you mentioned, Florian, which we'll share around. We want to try and raise €2,000 by the end of November for the basic building foundations, and then raise more money as time goes for building up the centre. So that's one very basic thing in terms of the fundraising initiatives. You know, also at the moment, this conversation is so poignant. So all 4 of my grandparents were Nazi Holocaust survivors, and when you talk about war, Lucas, and when you talk about it being a crime, Kajetan, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, and all the work that you've been doing, Monica and Stana and everyone, about advocating this as a crime to the UN, to the EU, you couldn't be more right. Yesterday in Germany, you know, I'm in Berlin, I'm walking around the streets, there's candles and roses on the floor because it's the 81st anniversary of Kristallnacht, which translates as the Night of Broken Glass, which my German grandparents were lucky enough to escape. They eventually came to England, My Polish grandparents weren't so lucky. My Polish grandmother survived the Warsaw Ghetto by hiding as a nanny. They're all Jewish, obviously, hiding as a undercover Jew, as a nanny in a Nazi household around the corner from the Warsaw Ghetto. My Polish granddad ended up in a labor camp in Siberia. And in 1946, they came to the East End of London, like a lot of the Jewish Holocaust survivors. And one thing they always said to me was, the principle of never again, ever. And the Holocaust, the Nazi mentality didn't happen overnight. It crept up, and we have to stop it before it starts. And like you say, Lucas, again, it is a war. It needs to be recognized as that. And without the international underground solidarity movement, the underground resistance movement in Poland, in Germany, I wouldn't be here today. So that's why we must continue it. The infrastructure of the Holocaust still exists with fascistic ideology like the LGBT-free zones. And I found out that, obviously I don't speak Polish, well, I'd like to speak Polish, and maybe you can teach me, that my Polish granddad used to say to me as a kid, and I just found out that what it meant from someone else in Make Poland Queer Again, he used to say to me, "Nitzwyczynia," I'm not pronouncing it right, which apparently means extraordinary. So he must have known I was gay when I was 5. So that's just what I found out. Florian, tell me to shut up. Do you want me to go on to the bit about the other ideas for creative actions now? Okay. So because of my heritage, because of being a migrant, being queer, being Jewish, being HIV positive, being all the other stigmatized, bigoted things that Hitler would have had a field day with me, it obviously influences me to be a queer international solidarity activist. And one thing which I found is really important is to be proactive. I totally understand that we've been reactive because the onslaught of fascism and bigotry and prejudice has been so intense from the Law and Justice Party. And a lot of the conversations that I've been having with people on the ground and at the demonstrations here in Berlin and the demonstrations we've had in London, in Manchester, in Glasgow, in the UK is that we need the opportunity through conversations like this, sorry, I speak really fast, to be more proactive and not just react to things on the ground, which is understandable because it's so intense. So these conversations are so important so that we can be more prolific in our actions. One of the networks I'm an activist and I'm an artist with is called Beautiful Trouble, which is online. It's beautifultrouble.org. It's an online toolkit of creative actions across the world. Just to give some examples that I'm lucky to have been involved with myself, just to give a few examples of actions that can empower both, hopefully, the community on the ground in Poland and international people and movements in solidarity. Do anyone remember the baby Trump balloon last year, which is obviously very poignant now, the big balloon of Donald Trump? I was lucky to be part of one of the Trump babysitters, which wheeled the baby Trump around, which was obviously a project to take the piss out of Donald Trump. And of course, it captured the imagination and more baby Trumps were built across the world. So maybe that's something we can do against the Law and Justice Party in terms of a big baby for them. Another example is, I don't know if you heard about, when was it? 2008, someone super gluing themselves to the British Prime Minister at the time, Gordon Brown. I was lucky, well, I thought I was lucky, Gordon Brown didn't think that at the end, to get into 10 Downing Street, the houses where the Prime Minister lives and organises from, because I'd won this award for campaigning, and this was a climate change action. And the Prime Minister was the one who was giving the awards out, even though he was part of the problem. So the long and short of it was, instead of accepting the award, I had super glue in my pocket and stuck myself to his sleeve and made a speech in 10 Downing Street to highlight the hypocrisy. If you just Google my name and Gordon Brown and super glue, you'll find a picture of me stuck to him. And I'm not saying that we should do the same, but that's just an idea, just throwing it out there of creative disruption to stop business as usual. That's another of the tactics in the Beautiful Trouble handbook called creative disruption. There's other ideas like chucking glitter over politicians before they go up to speak. I know it's dangerous, and of course we've got to look at the legal and physical repercussions beforehand, but these are just some ideas. Also, I just wanted to mention some ACT UP actions. Actually, before I do that, this tattoo is very relevant. It's in tribute to my friends from the Gay Liberation Front. So the Gay Liberation Front, in short, were born out of the Stonewall uprisings. And 3 years later, they started in the UK. And in 1970, so 50 years ago this year, one of their first and most iconic actions, they invaded a festival, a religious homophobic festival called the Festival of Light. So it's very relevant to the Law and Justice Party, who were very similar, promoting homosexuality as a sin, as a disease. And they dressed up as nuns, and therefore got into the event, got up on stage, and did the can-can, the dance, the can-can, and released mice from underneath their habits, their nun outfits, and evacuated the whole event. And they also did that the same at other of their venues and shut down the whole festival. So this is my friend Stuart, who's still alive and still very much active in the Gay Liberation Front, who was there. And so that's just one of the other actions. And then I just wanted to mention ACT UP, AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, which started in 1983 in America, and then developed chapters all over the world. I'm just thinking a lot about ACT UP, obviously, because it's World AIDS Day on December the 1st. And of course, where we see one form of oppression, we see multiple levels of oppression. And in places where there's higher rates of LGBT discrimination, there'll quite likely be higher rates of HIV diagnosis. And that's something else to explore and act in solidarity in Poland. I think ACT UP is one of the most phenomenal examples of creative actions. Just to give a few, I can't remember what year, but Jesse Helms, an American senator in the 80s and 90s, hugely homophobic, HIV phobic, racist, sexist, misogynistic, you name it, all the bad things, was actively denying the HIV genocide. And was actively denying the needs and the rights and the access for HIV healthcare and condoms, etc. So some of the ACT UP activists made a giant house-size condom, the size of a house, a condom the size of a house, and went to Jesse Helms' house whilst he was away and put a giant condom over his house. I can send the links around to these. Another example, actually, and it makes, again, I've just picked up on the words war, Lucas, is in New York Grand Central Station. They made a giant banner and attached helium balloons to it, so it goes up to the top of the air, saying "Fund AIDS, not war," to highlight that obviously the political priorities of the defense agenda, the war machine, when they're not willing to fund healthcare. So it's, which also builds alliances amongst other struggles. So attaching helium balloons to giant banners in institutions, whether it's Polish embassies across the world or stations in Poland to disrupt business as usual, could be an idea. And then, Jesus, I'm definitely not looking after my own legal rights here, but one other idea is one of my favorites. Do you want to tell, how long have I got?
Yeah, not the last one then, but it's your favorite, perhaps the last one.
My favorite.
Yep.
My favorite.
Okay.
In 2014, Nigel Farage, who's a bit like Donald Trump, but still around, unfortunately, is a member of the far-right British party, United Kingdom Independence Party. And he's all the bad things as well. And at the time he said, frankly, the last kind of migrants we should allow into the UK are those living with HIV. And as part of an ACT UP action on World AIDS Day, me and my boyfriend and others in ACT UP, well, we found out where UKIP's office was and brought half a ton of horse shit and dumped it in front of their offices with a World AIDS Day red ribbon over it, with a message on a banner which we put on their garage which said, solidarity on World AIDS Day. Was what goes around comes around. Solidarity on World AIDS Day, stop spreading filth. And UKIP actually ended up getting kicked out of their offices because the landlord was like, I can't deal with any more horse shit coming to our offices. So that was good. Yeah, so I just wanted to shove those actions out there to say that, like, let's have more conversations about how we can support each other to take the actions that we need to tear the law and justice apart. But the primary message is that you're not alone in Poland, and anything that we can do as part of the international solidarity movement, Make Poland Queer Again, is a great network, growing network of creative activists, both queer, feminist, anti-racist, anti-fascist. So yeah, let's share ideas.
Thank you, Dan. That's a wonderful, opposite to what Stana says, who is very into the institutions and into the communities organized. You tell something, and Lucas, you wanted to add something, and that's good because I wanted to ask you and Monica, what do you think about such things, and what want you to add, and what do you need on actions actually?
Yeah, I wanted to speak now because Dan is talking about all of these, actions, and he's talking about all those funny actions. Some of them are funny, some of them are dangerous, illegal, and I guess you know that now in Poland, and since a few weeks ago, women's strike is going on here in Poland. The tens of thousands of women and also queer activists are demonstrating and protesting on the streets of Poland against the abortion ban, but it's, a lot more. And I don't know if I can tell you about it because I know, the policeman and court is still looking for us, but whatever. I wanted to say that after the queer activists in Poland watched this Ryan Murphy show Pose, and there was this one scene where activists in New York City went to a church and they stopped the mass and they lay on the ground and they were protesting against homophobic propaganda and in the United States there. And we thought that it's a great idea. And a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we thought that the Poznan Cathedral is a great place to protest because the Catholic Church in Poland is messing up with politics here and has a huge impact on the situation here in Poland. And so the women's strike, one of the most popular sign is "This is war." And so we took it to our hearts and we went to one Sunday to the Poznan Cathedral. We went inside as religious people. We were pretending we are here for the mass. We waited until the first reading. And in one moment, 30 to 40 activists got up, stood in the center of the cathedral, stopped the mass, and were shouting that the abortion ban is bad, that the church is messing up with politics, and that we are here for the Christian people if they need abortion or they need our support and stuff. Of course, the mass was stopped. The priest was pissed. The religious people there were pissed. We didn't want to go out. They called the police. I mean, they just shouted that they need them because the police were waiting outside the church. They just surrounded activists inside. They didn't want to let us go. Then we said that we want to go, and we have this compromise that they will just record our IDs and let us go. And after that, we just went to the Stonewall Center and we ordered pizza, and it was fun. So I just wanted to say to Dan that we are very inspired by all of those actions, and we are, this is a great, internet, and those connections are a great opportunity to share all of those ideas to protest, and we are very inspired. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lukas. And Monica, you want to add something?
I think together with let's call it Margot affair, this moment when queer activist Margot was arrested in Warsaw, our movement, which is wider than LGBT rights, but also we are fighting against the patriarchy, which in natural way includes women's rights and equality of races and so on. We somehow learned from her, from Margot, that our very, let's say, diplomatic methods so far were completely ineffective, because we were talking and speaking and asking and showing that we are okay to everybody and telling that we need rights and we want rights, and we were preparing, you know, the projects of bills, and they were put in parliament, or we are talking to politicians, especially local ones, because it's easier to get to them, to stand on our side, and so on. And this work was, of course, also important and had its effects rather in a wide society than on level of legislature. But when Margot was arrested and 50 people were protesting against it, and they were brutally treated and arrested by police, Kajetan was one of them, so he can tell about his experiences. And Margot became first political prisoner in Poland since the democracy we have here for 30 years. So everybody knew that she vandalized the van, which was riding around Warsaw, and it appears also in other places in Poland, especially during the Prides or before the Prides. And this van is decorated with slogans like LGBT people want to rape children, such stuff. And it also speaks it from loudspeaker. And we were trying to stop this for 1.5 years in the courts, and it didn't work. And Margot just vandalized it. She destroyed these banners. And had also, you know, quarrel with the driver. And when she was released from prison, she showed this sign and said, "Poland, you are a dick." Of course, it was Poland as a state, which didn't protect her from people who wanted to point her as an enemy and who wanted to inspire violence against her and all our community. And of course, there was a big discussion, like, is it okay or not okay that, oh, don't do such stuff, because people who are like neutral, then don't like gay and queers. But we like said, we don't give a fuck anymore, because we were trying to explain those things for 20 years, and you are still deaf and blind. And the energy that was unleashed with all these events around Margot, they showed us the way. And that's maybe that's the reason why this women's strike now is so powerful. Just to mention, it started on 22nd October, when the total ban of abortion, almost total ban, except of rape and direct risk to mother's life, to pregnant person life, the abortion was banned even in this case of severe fetal disease and lethal disease of the fetus. And they didn't probably expect that so many people would go out to the streets, especially in pandemic. I was personally in Warsaw in this big protest where there was 100,000 people in the streets of Warsaw. And we were shouting because we have only one request now to this government: get the fuck out. And this is the new word of revolution. In Polish, it's one word, wypierdalać, and it's very powerful. And we have a second slogan, which is jebać PiS, which means fuck PiS, this ruling party. And it was Margot who taught us these methods, and it shows that they're effective much more than before. So revolution starts from transgendered activists, like in Stonewall. And also people around Poland take other actions which are physical in a public space. There is one very special mountain in Poland, which is called Giewont. It's just over the biggest city in Tatra Mountains. So it's a symbol of the whole mountains in Poland. And on the top of it, there is a huge cross, like 50 meters high. It's a very big, very ugly, and very dangerous because a lot of people die of the thunders which are coming out from the clear sky in there. So somebody put the huge symbol of women's strike on it, like the same size. We have no idea who was that and how they did that, but it's a great action because when somebody says there is no place for politics and ideology in Tatra, we can always answer, yes, you are right. We are also standing for removal of this cross from that place. It's not natural to be there. Yeah. And we are planning a lot of other happenings now because in pandemic, it's better to do it than the huge demonstrations, but they happen anyway. But yes, we are inspired now, and we will go with our war like just down underground. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Monica. You tell us about the first thing that the police did to activists in Warsaw, I think it was. You mentioned something happened to Kajetan, and I think it's time that he tell us what happened to you and what is you thinking of that actions and what are you planning?
Yeah, this protest against Margot's arrest was like the first spontaneous event that was marked with such blatant civil disobedience of so many people. So I think it was like a very strong sign that something is actually going to explode pretty soon. People have had enough of being treated as if they were stupid, you know. Our public television, for example, is like a complete propaganda channel that's spewing just unacceptable lies and things that are completely absurd that want to make you laugh on a daily basis. I don't want to keep recounting all the stuff that's been happening, but yeah, the protest was back on the 7th of August, was sparked by the decision of the court to imprison Margot for 2 months for vandalizing the homophobic van. And any person in their right mind knows that this is too much of a punishment for such a small crime, especially right now during the women's strike. There were people who were driving into the crowd of people with their cars, and the charges have been dropped against them because our justice system is just taken over by the Law and Justice Party, which is completely ironic in itself. If you think of the name of the party. Going back to the protests, yeah, it was a pretty spontaneous blockade at first near the campaign against homophobia offices, and then it somehow turned into a kind of a pride march that we didn't really have in Warsaw this year, which is usually the only day in the year that we can be out and proud on the streets of our own city, which is pretty sad when you think about it. So we marched towards Krakowskie Przedmieście next to the monument of Nicholas Copernicus. There were two peaceful blockades in front and in the back of the car that Margot was dragged into. It was an unmarked police car. And then the police started getting very brutal. They started removing the protesters by force. They started kneeling on their backs and choking them. People were getting beaten up. And I was next to the monument because I saw my friends hanging a rainbow flag on the monument, which back then was like a huge event, and everybody was thinking, oh my God, they're somehow desecrating the monument. So the main idea was that the country is protecting, a hunk of steel or a building more than it protects its own citizens against violence and against discrimination. So I was standing next to the monument to ensure that the rainbow flag stays there as long as possible, because I saw it as a very potent symbol of what we're doing. And it's like such a small act, but like this small act of civil disobedience and of reclaiming the public space gave so much power to the people around it. And I saw people coming up, even like, teenagers or 20-somethings that were like looking at this monument with this complete awe in their eyes, and they were like, oh my God, my flag, the flag that speaks about my identity is in such a public place. And then the police started arresting pretty much everyone, and we heard them talking on the radio, just take them all, and there was like a wave of 20 or 30 policemen running towards us and arresting everyone, from tourists to people that were going back with their shopping, to people that were just taking selfies with the monument, basically for nothing. They didn't give us their names, which is the law. They have to give us their names, and they have to give us the law under which they're arresting us. They didn't do that. They arrested more than 50 people. I was arrested with a group of 4 other persons, and we were distributed around detention centers around Warsaw and neighboring smaller cities. I was pretty lucky because I wasn't brutalized in any way. I was just like thrown into the van forcefully, and that was it. But then other people weren't as lucky as I was. People were being threatened a lot. There were a lot of homophobic jokes. There was one guy who was driven out of the city and threatened with rape. And then he was threatened that the policeman was going to let a skinhead into his cell to beat him up. There was a transgender person who was molested. The policemen were putting hands down their pants. One of my friends' kids were left at home, 2 kids, and she wasn't even able to contact anyone to tell them my kids are home alone for 24 hours, you know. And of course, they didn't exercise any of our citizens' rights. We couldn't call our lawyers, we couldn't call our families. So our families were pretty much for over 24 hours, they were left with no information on the state of our health, or on where we were, or on if we were okay. I know that personally that was very hard for my family. I don't really regret getting arrested, because now it kind of it's taken the fear away from me, because like what more can happen to me during a protest, you know, besides an arrest. So right now I'm ready and galvanized to do my thing, and if I get arrested again, then so be it. But the biggest thing was the impact on my family. And concluding, since then, the protests have started getting more and more active and more disobedient. And right now, actually inspired by Stop Bzdurom and Margot's actions, the women's strike is actually taking the matters into their own hands. And finally, people started realizing that the government is only afraid of us if we stop being obedient, if we start doing things that are actually illegal, you know, spraying in the city, in the streets, trying to get into their offices. They're not gonna back down, and they're not gonna budge if we don't show them that we have the strength to overthrow them.
Thank you very Kajetan for that's yeah, I'm a little bit speechless about I can't thinking of being in such a situation, because we are so long here in a nice situation. If you compare us, that we can go to the street, we can do nothing that happens to us, if we say. Of course, nothing, not everything changes to better if we do immediately, but of course it's going better and better, and it's really hard to hear that our direct neighbor and member of the Union European is threatened that way, his own people. And yeah, it's a little difficult to go over now to the next and last point. Before we make a little round for the end of the thing, I wanted to give over to Stana and Florian, because there is something happening now, but perhaps help people to better make her voice heard in the future, perhaps if they go to officials and talking about what LGBT expect from these guys.
Okay, maybe to wrap this up, because we're also reaching our goal to finish at 8 p.m. What Christian was just mentioning, and what Queer Matters has been working on in cooperation with like all of you people with the authors of the Atlas of Hate. We are working on translating the Atlas of Hate page, with basically a visualization of all this like LGBT-free zones and the things that come with it, and the oppression of LGBT people in Poland, into a German version. So we want to empower German people, young folks, older folks, whoever feels the call to take this in his hand, to go to his local politicians, because Poland is our direct neighbor, and we have a lot of partnerships which are reaching into the country, and also far, far, far deep into the West, which is then like very, very close to the cold father, mother Russia. which is another big topic, according to this. But we are translating this page at the moment, and we are having a wonderful support by All Out and Pulse of Europe. We also have to mention here, who have done an amazing amount of work beforehand. Maybe Sana, you can tell us what happened before in this direction.
Yeah, we feel like the project that you just shortly described, I think it's a fantastic idea to be able to just really empower people to become active and build a bridge to activists in their partner cities. So a German young lesbian woman will have the possibility to access tools and understand where activists sit in their partner cities and start working with them and start reaching out to their representatives. But you know, if we will also be happy to like some horseshit in front of the Polish embassy, no problem. We can think about it, and I'm sure those young activists in civil society will have a lot of ideas on how to go further and lobby for LGBT plus rights. So you're building this bridge, and we kind of want to support that. And we have been working with the Atlas of Hate, who have kind of mapped the LGBT-free zones, made it visual. And your project is kind of mirroring that and giving information on where to find responsible representatives, where your counterparts are, and we kind of want to support that. And the toolkit that we have so far, which is recommendations on how partner cities and people in partner cities can support grassroots activists and people in Poland that were developed together with activists. We have an entire database of LGBT plus organizations in Poland. We have contact information. We have the portfolio, what they're working on, where their region is, where they're sitting exactly. This can be accessed through your project now as well. We have a pledge that cities can sign. And of course, very important, we have more than 70,000 signatures from European Union countries that are urging partner cities to take action. And young activists, civil society, people in any city in Germany can now use this lobbying tool and talk to their politicians and to their representatives in their municipality, and hopefully urge them to action, give them tools, make suggestions on what they can do. And yeah, so we are very happy that this is happening. It is a scalable project. It's a project that gives power to people on the ground to become active, either very diplomatic or very radical, and we're more than happy to support that.
Hey, Sana, thank you very much. I expect Queer Matters is getting a very thick envelope now in the next 3 days in their mailbox. And I can assure you that we're going to do the best we can with this to empower people on every level, not only in the capital cities and in the neighbor cities, just like to make them understand. And I think a talk like this shows so much that what we are sharing and what unites us is so much more than the differences that we have. And I think when we are looking over into other political sectors, we're going to find this too, that the fights we're fighting are combined way stronger. And that like politicians from the PiS party or whichever it might be in other countries should fasten their seatbelts, because in the future there's going to be a big coalition of international queer activism being ready to kick some ass. And yeah, Monica, when I see your smile, can I ask you, maybe we are ending this, Christian, I'm now taking your job, sorry, with a bit of a vision, like what is needed now? What do the people out there need to know, and what can we, yeah, give us the now.
I'm not sure if I should start from this 3 levels of activity I provided you. Yeah, this moment.
Yeah, or maybe you can say like this. What do you think we need to do really concrete now, and what is the goal that's behind the vision? Why are we doing this?
Okay, so just to summarize it, because we can go with the details on emails and so on. Well, what we need Poland to become the country in which everybody has their space and right to live, and we have to do it on 3 levels. The society must understand what is it all about. There are a lot of people who are just completely unaware of who queer people are, and that they are just regular people, and yeah, of course, very special, but people, not ideology, and not monsters. We need the changes in law, especially regarding marriage equality, regarding transition regulations, regarding sex education and anti-discrimination education obligatory in schools. Best if it is because children have religion lessons in schools, but we would willingly exchange it with anti-discrimination education. And we need law protecting us against the hate crimes. And we also need to get a contact and cooperation with people who have the impact on reality. Politicians, celebrities, people of culture, people who are respected in a public space. And all these 3 factors, like society as a wide group, and as important people, and law, the changes in it support each other. So we have to do it all at the same time. And of course, changes in the law are completely impossible with current government, except right now we have the bill which is going to be processed in a parliament, which bans the prides and using symbols of LGBT in public space. This is the idea, the project made by Kaja Godek, this activist from Ordo Juris, the organization which also lobbies for abortion ban, and they are connected with Hungarian government and Russian government, and they are sort of the voice of Catholic Church on the level of politics. So our parliament is obliged to run this project through these levels of legislation. So legislation, society, and influential people, because we need to tear down this government. Next election we have in 3 years, but there is some hope that maybe it will become earlier because of the problems with economy, the problems with healthcare system. Yeah, problem is a very it's not good word. It's a catastrophe. In pandemic, the state doesn't work anymore, and it's going to be worse. And of course, due to a lockdown, we will have a lot of problems in economy. So maybe this government will crash down as a result of this earlier than in 3 years. Let's hope that. And we have to weaken Catholic Church, which is our biggest enemy, and those are these guys behind the pressure on government to limit the rights of LGBT people and of women. because we are the country similar to Ireland. Catholics are the most common belief, and Ireland had such a problem for a very, very long time. And after a lot of revealing of pedophilia in church and the massive massive action of leaving the church by people, it was possible to have come from the criminalization of homosexuality to marriage equality in 30 years. So we want to follow that path. And we will not pretend anymore that they are not our enemies. They are on the war with us, where we didn't want. And what we can do on this level of the cooperation between countries, first thing is to cooperate on the level of NGOs, so make twin partnerships, visit each other, go to each other for each other's prides, and help each other on this emotional level, which is very important, because when people from the world outside, from the civilized world, are supporting us, when we know that we are not forgotten, that there is someone outside who hears our cries, it makes us stronger. And also to hear that there is a world which was some time ago just like our country, but it's not anymore. And on political level, we need the pressure from politicians at all levels, because all of them can do it. Yeah, the mayor can press on them in Europe, can press on the mayor in Poland, and the European Parliament can do a lot of things. A lot of things, from as often as it can, and telling Law and Justice that such things are not allowed in the European community, and also on the level of funds, because this is the language that they understand, because all the rule is based on giving money to everybody, and their voters follow them mostly because of that. It was scientifically researched. So we need to speak to them in the language they understand. We were asked if it's okay financial help from European Union, because it also hits the citizens. Yes, it does. But those are citizens who voted again for Law and Justice and President Duda, and they chosen them again this and last year after seeing what they're doing to us. So if something will not be done about this, everybody will. It will be not only wrong for LGBT people or women, because it's about the democracy itself. It starts from LGBT people, from women, from minorities, and then we go into the authoritarian rule, and everybody can be discriminated. Everybody does not have rights, because only the Führer has rights, and history shows that. So in the long term, in a long perspective, it's wrong to anybody. It's not about, a teen transgender person who jumps from the bridge. It's not only about someone beaten up in the streets or after the Pride March. It's not about Margot being arrested. It's about the democracy in Poland and the stability of European Union as a whole. Because Putin will be very, very satisfied if we make Polexit. Yeah, this is what he wants. And this situation in Poland and in Hungary already destabilized European Union. Yeah, and and the last thing.
Yeah,
we need
of course.
money.
Yeah,
I know it's not elegant to tell about money, but we need them a lot, like it's very, very important. We are cut off any funds. All of us do it as a second full-time job after the work, after taking care about children. And we are in a very, very big need of financial means.
Thank you, Monica. I want, yeah, it was one.
I'm sorry, I did talk too much.
No, it's not too much. It's so important that that it's again and again and again told to the people, because, as I often said, I think too much people can't think what's happening, and so thank you again. But of course we are over time a little bit, and so we have to hurry up. We have to hurry. It's not your fault. It's my fault because I don't stop before. But I want to give the chance to Kajetan and Lukas for the end, before at last thing Florian and Stana perhaps, and then have a last word. But of course, Lukas and Kajetan, do you have something to add? Please shortly, and yeah, with power.
Lukas, you want to start?
I just want to add one thing, because Monica said a lot about what we need and what you can do, but to all of the people that are watching now us during this conversation, if you want to know what's going on in Poland right now, and you want something which will you tell about our situation every day, we started an English language account on Instagram called Stonewall Poland, and if you follow this account, our organization Grupa Stonewall in Poznań is translating all the news from Poland to you, so it can be useful for you.
I would also like to add to what Monica said. Support is definitely needed, both emotional support and financial support, especially in the light of the recent projects that have been put in the parliament to criminalize NGOs that are being funded from outside of Poland, which is basically cutting us off from any financial support from outside of our country. And as it's been said, our government is not supporting our cause at all. So we need to act as fast as possible and as big as possible. And yeah, I'd like to thank all of you for your input. It's been amazing hearing all your points of view.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, again, one last sentence I wanted to hear from, but you don't hear me, from Dan, Stana, and Florian. Really, please short. Give us action that perhaps helps Poland now. Dan? I don't know. Dan has his micro on, so I thought perhaps he wanted to start.
Thank you so much for tonight. It was so inspiring on every level, practically, emotionally, and with so many great ideas. And for all the listeners, I'm sure we'll write them up somehow. We'll carry on talking. We'll create a timetable. I just wanted to read one quote, because for people on the ground and for our friends on the ground in Poland, I really hope you look after yourselves, because you are so loved and we need you to keep strong. And I want to share with you a favourite quote by Audre Lorde, the amazing radical feminist, who said, "Caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare." So do what you need to do tonight to look after yourselves, have a bath, have a drink, whatever, because we need you to look after yourself, and we're here for you in every way. So yeah, thank you so much to everyone tonight.
Did you hear that, Monica?
Have a bath, have a drink, do what you need to do.
Okay, Stana.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. Okay, I will keep it very short. Thank you. you guys, if you need anything, you know, you can always call us up. If there's anything, a project coming up, if you need support in any way, always call us. We're there. For everyone out there, you can help, you can support in any way. There's so many possibilities. We will share everything. Petitions, fundraisers, just start with a small thing. Once you start, you can't stop, and there's so many ways to help. And yeah, let's keep going.
Thank you, Sana. So last words go to Florian. And before, I want to add that I try to write some the points that are really I try to make a summary of what happened. So here, I think I will make it ready for the weekend, and then we put it online with links, with contact info if wishes for all the visitors are here tonight or in the next days looking at the video. So I hope we can do our part with our media to improve the network. And so I think thank you to you all, and give the last opportunity to speak to Florian.
Well, thank you everybody for the amazing inputs shared already, which puts quite a spotlight on me now. Wherever you are, whoever listens to this, if you feel inspired to get up, and if it's not for Poland, if it's for another country, look inside yourself, search what makes you the most angry, and fight against that. And one day we will all meet together on one last battlefield against the oppressive assholes, and we will win. If we stick together, if we watch out for ourselves, and if we watch out for our loved ones, and if we use our strongest power, our belief in our network.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening, and we will fight that.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Lots of love. Keep in touch.
Together with